Go. And we are back, Brian. Let me tell you something I used to hate when I watch YouTubers. They'll do all this pointing and all this. But when I'm working with you, I have no other way to let you know that we've started than the point.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate when you do that, though. It kind of it sometimes when I first was with you and you did it, I was kind of like I was shocked, and now I expect it to know what's going on with the platform and all. But as always, my brother, it's great to be with you here tonight.
Appreciate you, Swatty Cop, everybody else tuned in right now. So we're gonna let the room grow a little bit, and of course, we know we got y'all watching whenever y'all watch back, whenever you're free or whatever. Y'all be tapped in with us. We're gonna be previewing preseason week 2, and we're live right now. So if we have questions in the chat, we would love to tap in with y'all. If y'all got a phone call question, if you want us to hear your lovely voices, I have the phone number pinned at the top of the chat. Okay, and every now and then I'll just scroll over here and be like, hey, there's the number right there, y'all. Go All right, so Brian, let's get this started, shall we? We're doing just fine. Appreciate you, sir. Preseason week 2, you've been alluding to this, right? I'm not saying that you've talked to anybody. I'm not saying you've put your arm around one of these coaches, Brian. But you've been alluding to the idea that preseason week 2, you feel, your opinion, Brian thinks this, that they're going to try to run the ball more. Last week, they threw the ball 40 times, trying to get Trey Lance acclimated, I guess. You think this week's going to be more balanced, more run heavy, because you got 8 running backs and you're trying to figure out 6 of them, Brian.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where we're at. We finally have the running backs all healthy. And there was a time in this camp where that wasn't the case. And, and you've also got a young left tackle that's going to need some work in this game. I know you and I were talking about the possibilities of Ball and guys like that playing, and that's still a possibility. But before I came on with you today, Guyton is going to get some work at left tackle tomorrow. So that will maybe help the situation with him and some others that, maybe they can find a way. I haven't really sat down and, looked at the Raiders and like, okay, what do I expect from, their run defense? You're kind of thinking that maybe, Antonio Pierce, he might be trying to win some games, and even if they're preseason games, you don't know what they're going to do. You kind of had an idea what they were going to do in the Rams with their starters, but I really don't know with what's going to happen until tomorrow, till we get going. We have a chance at the pregame show to visit with some of their personnel and kind of get an idea. But yeah, they don't need Trey Lance to throw the ball 40 times. And that's the vibe that I've been getting from being out here in Oxnard, is that, okay, we saw some things. We've been practicing against the Rams. We've had our own practices. It's about time to kind of see where this running back room really, really is.
So when everybody tapped into the live stream because their noties were on and they said, oh, Brian and Voch are live, the thumbnail that was up there was Deuce Vaughn. I just got Deuce Vaughn up there in the thumb because I'm biased, Brian, bro. I can't hide my bias, man. I can't stop being phony when it comes to Deuce. And to be fair, Deuce is a little bitty and he hasn't proven anything, right? So I don't have a reason to be biased. But I think when you're building running back rooms, you have to limit your redundancies, right? And you got running backs in your running back room now. The alleged first 4 guys, they all do the same thing. Hunter Lipke's a thumping dude. Zeke is a thumping dude. Rico's a faster version of a thumping dude. And Royce Freeman averaged 4.3 yards per carry last year, being a thumping dude. And they were talking to y'all day 3 draft show. They was like, hey, we're looking for a running back with some juice.
Right.
None of the first 4 projected running backs got juice except for the little character over there. So I do think this is a good time for him to kind of show up and be like, hey, y'all, the running back situation last year, it was more about scheme and blocking nonsense. I can do this. I can run. And I think that if Deuce can go out there and show his ability to run, or maybe even show us something great in the, goofy kick return run play game situation, I think if Deuce can show his value there, I think there's room for him here, because I don't think they're attached to Royce in that way, and they shouldn't be attached to Zeke in that way, but they kind of are. I think there's room to work on this roster, Brian.
Yeah, they keep telling us, and I know I brought this up a couple of different times on our platform, but Mike McCarthy we'll sit there in that the press conference, and Mike McCarthy will say, well, Malik Davis having a good camp. Malik Davis, and you're kind of like, okay, I'm trying to think the times, and Malik had some carries last week, didn't really show anything positive on that. But, maybe now there'll be more of an opportunity this week. And I just, the way that Ram game went down and what I saw from the Rams practice the other day, I kind of have this feeling like, okay, let's see if Mike McCarthy, how committed he is to trying and get some of these guys some work and at least have an idea that, okay, we ran through these guys in a game. Hey, maybe we didn't block well, maybe we did. But if you all of a sudden find some space and these backs aren't getting it done, now you need to figure out where you're at with as far as looking at another team, making another trade, doing something to bring that juice that you were talking about earlier.
So if the rate, how about this? Let me ask you this, Brian. So when we're getting ready in preseason world, right?
Mm-hmm.
How concrete is the plan for the rotation? Let me explain, right?
Yeah.
Because if I was in charge, right, I would have the Raiders are running their backups out there versus my Raiders running their first team out there playing. I would have two plans. Because if the Raiders run their first team out there, all right, I need to see what Guyton's doing. I need to see how these guys look versus good players. I need to see, if they run the starters out there, I need to see Trey Lance versus some damn starters. But if Raiders run their second team out there, all right, we can get these characters a bunch of reps. Well, Let's Go can get a bunch of reps if they run those guys out there. And we may not know, right? But do you think that there's two plans and we pick that plan according to what the Raiders do? Because Guyton may be your only healthy tackle, like all together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bostic is down, Chuma's out for another 2 or 3 or so more weeks. If they're rolling Crosby out there,
right.
I would love to see what Guyton looks like in those situations versus Crosby. Right. But if they roll out Jeffrey Nonsensica, buddy last week with the weird name, right? Yep. If they roll him out there, third string edge guy, I don't want to get Guyton rolled up on. That makes sense?
Right. No, it absolutely does. And, that's where I was when talking with folks, I'm saying, listen, once again, pitch count this week with Guyton, and this guy looked at me and he says, listen, they're all on pitch counts this time of year, but we do need to see Guyton get some work. And, I think the Cowboys plan, from how I've gathered this, is they're going to play this their way. They're really not interested if the first or the seconds or the thirds are out there for the Raiders. They got their guys that they have in mind that they want to play. The rotation of the backs could be interesting because of the number you do have. And you do have a second, or actually the final preseason game, next week. Do you go through, say, 3 or 4 this week and then have a couple next week that try and handle the workload and just split the game? You could tell probably pretty early how they're going to rotate this thing if all of a sudden you start seeing the same guys over and over and over again. And then it's like, okay, wait a minute. They're about to split the games where half are going to take this game and then the other half will take the game against the Chargers next Saturday. So but they've got all these back. Like I say, they've got these backs, but I think to answer your question, they're going to do it on their terms and not how the Raiders dictate it to them. They're gonna play the game like, okay, we have a plan. These are the number of reps we want to see, and here we go.
We'll see, Bryan Broaddus. Hey, if y'all want to call into the show, the number is 202-926-1127, access code 309104. We're gonna take a call, and then Bryan, I'm gonna ask you about these linebackers. Now, hey, here's the rules, y'all. Hey, here's the rules. On a regular day, I'll sit up here and talk to y'all like we family all day, every day, no problem. And I love y'all to pieces. We got company today. So we're doing all right. Mm-hmm. We're doing just fine. Bryan got to get up out of here in like 20 minutes anyway. We're doing just fine. Hey, get to your question. We'll be glad to answer for you. All right. We love y'all to pieces. All right. Let's get Chris on the phone. What's up, Chris?
Hey, what's up? Hey, I had a question for Bryan Broaddus. This is football. This is going back to when he worked for the Cowboys with Parcells. I had a question of, have you ever maybe heard when you were working there, like a coach talking to Jerry saying, hey, I want this guy on the team, and maybe Jerry pushed back and said no or something like that? Maybe it was a big free agent that they wanted for the team to make better or something like that. Have you ever seen that from Jerry or heard stories about that while you worked for the Cowboys?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I was with the Cowboys, and one of the reasons I got in trouble with Parcells is I fought him every single day, and always trying to convince Jerry that, I wasn't right about every single player. There was some that I felt like, Leroy Glover, I felt like worked out really good. I just never always remember Jerry asking me, we're about to hand him a $5 million check. And Jerry looks at me and goes, you sure this guy could play? And I mean, it took every ounce of courage I had to say, yes, sir. I think he could absolutely play and be very effective for us. And, with Bill, there's been times the best example of that was the pushback that Jerry gave Bill Parcells on Sean Merriman. I've told the story a million times. If you've listened to me on the platforms or the works I've done with DallasCowboys.com or 105.3, Bill Parcells wanted Sean Merriman, and Jerry Jones, the morning of the draft, told him, no, we're drafting Ware. And that was one of those times where, I would just remember that, that thing came down to the morning of the draft, and everybody was thinking which way we're going to go. And Jerry, as the general manager, told Bill, hey, we're not taking Merriman, we're taking Ware. And it ended up being, Merriman was a fine player. Ware was a Hall of Fame player. And that was a time that I remember Jerry really pushing back on a coach at that time.
And then, Bryan, honestly, we just, Mike McCarthy, we all got one more year left. So I can imagine that this is like common, right? Like, hey, I got 1 year to show what I got to fight for my contract. Can I have some dues? Can I have, every other team's going out to get these Pro Bowl players, teams that I'm competing against. Boy, man, the Giants got Brian Burns now. The Eagles got Saquon Barkley now. I need something to compete here. Hey, Jerry, can I have something? And him and all his money finance people going, no. Just take what you got or take whatever we give you and win with it. I can imagine that could be tough for the coach.
Yeah, it could be very tough. And you get to a situation, and I haven't worked with McCarthy, but I worked in a place where he came from in Green Bay, and Ted Thompson and their scouting staff was really responsible for the roster. There were times we've seen Mike McCarthy in video clips we've seen from the Star has had more input on the direction of the draft and the roster than what he had in Green Bay, because Teddy was going to pick the players for him. They had an idea of, which way they were going to go, but that was very much a personnel scout driven department. And so Mike coming here, my experience of every coach I've ever worked with here in Dallas, that coach had an opinion. If you wanted Dave Campo had an opinion, Chan Gailey had an opinion. Bill Parcells had a big opinion. Sometimes these coaches take that opportunity to really step up. We've seen Mike McCarthy step up and talk about certain players that we need to draft or they need to draft or whatever. And, but that is something that he is really not used to doing coming from Green Bay. That just wasn't something that was part of their DNA.
Bryan, when we go into this game tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
The linebacker room is another room that's kind of, hey, they're not hurt, but we don't want to do too much to make a small injury a big injury, right? How do you balance, getting Luafau his reps, but not overdoing Luafau? That's another bigger like thought though, right? Yeah. Like, hey, we need you to get reps, but we know that there's a long season ahead of you. Right. And there's always this thought that, okay, well, these rookies, they get tired around week 15 and 16 and stuff like that. They just run into this wall. Right. How do you think they're going to balance getting these young guys rest? Because they're going to use Luafau. Zimmer came out and said, they're going to use Luafau, but you don't want to burn the hell out of them. But Clark is hurt and Demo is kind of fine, but he's recovering from whatever. What is that balance going to look like?
Yeah, Clark is dealing with what he's dealing with, that knee. He got a little bit of a sprained knee, that he was dealing with. So that's something that they're kind of nicked up at linebacker right now. Mm-hmm. But to your point, they need to see Luafau play. And last week, it wasn't his best because we've seen him play. I know I have at Notre Dame, and I know you have because you've watched this tape at Notre Dame.
Sure.
We've seen him play with more instinct, seen him play downhill, seen him tackle, see him being around the ball. Last week was a little bit too much guessing, too much not sure, too much trying to kind of figure things out. He needs to play. And, the Raiders will give him an opportunity. He's one of these guys with the situation, like I said, with the banged up players. They don't want to sit there and use, they want to sit there and have to sit there and think that, let's use Kendricks and, those guys. I mean, they've got some guys, some young guys that need work. And Liufau is one of them because he did not play very well last week. And they need to get him in a mode of having a little confidence about the way, going into the season, because I feel like he's going to be a guy that they're going to rely on. So having him play, having him get reps, having him see scheme, I think is the right thing to do. And, be damned, but he needs to work. He really does.
We got John Q on the phone. John Q, we're doing just fine, I promise. What you got for us today?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's up, brother?
Hey, let me just start off by saying this. We've all been talking to Voch for quite some time. He's a great guy. But listening to you here and talking to Voch all the time, man, huge respect to you. We all really, really love the input that you have because you just have a different perspective on a lot of things. And as a Cowboy fan, like, we just all kind of reiterate what Voch says every time to you because you're just such a good guy, and we
thank you.
Really love your opinion and thought process. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us. And
appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. So I have a question for you. So going into the offseason, I knew we were going to get a couple linemen, and I'm really happy with the guys we have. It looks like we're finally listening to kind of what we've all been saying with BB and Guyton getting some reps. My big question, and it's kind of been thrown underneath the rug a little bit, is Terrence Steele has been it looks like he's almost getting a slide.
Yeah.
He didn't have a great year last year.
No.
And call it being dinged up or what, but can you really kind of discuss him a little more? Because I feel like sometimes he gets a pass, and I don't know if he should anymore.
John Q, that's a fantastic question.
Yeah, that really is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. You got it, Voch. Go ahead.
So Brian, when we drafted Tyler Guyton, I was like, all right, so yeah, this looked like left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
But if, there was this option that Tyler Smith could be your left tackle and Terrence Steele could be up out of here, depending on what his rebound season looks like. Now, we can give Terrence Steele grace because we've seen a really bad year from him,
right,
and we've seen a really good year from him. Then he gets hurt. Then he has this next year that's kind of bad. So I think this year is super important for Terrence. I would love for Terrence to get back to that mode to where we could just, trust him again, right? He doesn't have to be a superstar, but if he could just be the Doug Free of the group, I think he's fine.
Yeah.
As far as giving him passes, I think people kind of give him passes, not us, but maybe some of them, because he's gotten a little bit of money. He's not on this rookie contract, and we expect things of him. But with those passes, it comes this magnifying glass of, all right, Terrence, we're looking right at you. What does this look like? Because the one thing that you don't want with this group is for Zach Martin to be good, your left guard to be good, center to be better, and your rookie first round left tackle to be solid. But man, your right tackle is tearing it up right now. We don't want Terrence Steele to be horrific when everybody else is better than you wanted them to be. You know what I mean?
No, man, I tell you what, I think you completely covered that the right way. The thing with Steele, there's still issues that he has. And I don't think it's physical issues when it comes to his knee. I think he's past that point of where he needs to be. He's not the strongest guy. He has moments where he gives up at the inside rush. People have kind of figured out that you could take him down there, and he's not powerful enough to step down there and really cut you off. The wider you go on him, the better chance he has of blocking. But to be completely honest about this, Terrence Steele is what Terrence Steele is. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was not great, but I think a lot of it had to do with his knee. I think Terrence Steele's game comes down to his ability to move, his ability to adjust. If he can't do those things, then it's going to be a problem for him. He looks like he has his mobility back, the slide, the things that you need with your offensive lineman. He's just not the strongest guy. And he's tough, but you will see moments where people break him down. And I don't know if he's getting a pass, but there's times where you'll see 4 guys doing their job, and then he'll give up pressure, and the thing about him giving up pressure, Dak can see it coming from that side. So I think that Terrence, like I say, the health, I think, is on the way up. The ability should be better, but he is what he is as a player. There's going to be some really good plays from him, and there's going to be some ones where you're going to cover your eyes.
And that's been my problem with the work hard guys, have a couple of good game type dudes or whatever. Like, hey, man, Brock Hoffman, he works hard, though.
All right.
But I love the talented guys that work hard. You know what I mean? Like Cooper Beebe is the talented dude that work hard. He went undrafted for a reason. And when he got to the league, he wasn't great. Terrence Steele wasn't great, but he had to work himself out of that. I just don't want something to just creep up and just bite him. Like, hey, we're trusting Terrence Steele. And because we're trusting him, we're just kind of stuck with this situation now.
Yeah, and and it's funny, Voch. I'm looking here at the chat, and there's a couple of people talking about Awesome Richards. And to be honest with you, Awesome Richards doesn't want to play tackle. He wants to play guard. He feels more comfortable playing guard. When you talk to him, he will even admit, he's like, hey, they got me playing guard. I think he's happy about that. We've seen him play tackle. He was drafted as a tackle, but he is more comfortable playing inside than he is playing on the edge.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's scared or anything like that. He just, as a football player, he thinks as a pro lineman that he could do a better job being a guard than he can at tackle. And I think there's times at tackle he's looked pretty darn good.
Sure.
But his psyche right now, and it's so funny because Aisha Morris and I were talking about this, and Aisha's like, man, I don't have time for your feelings, man. We got to go. We got to have an offensive tackle out here, Yeah. And she's right. But that's kind of where they're at, and where I think he's thinking right now with his spot.
I got a theory, but just in the interest of time, we'll tap in on that another day. Michael Aldridge, shouts out to you, sir. Draw the 5 says, why do you think BB was a 3rd round pick? Because teams suck at drafting, sir. Teams aren't good at this, and sometimes teams have metrics like, I don't care how good he is, but if his arms aren't this long, if he's not this tall, if he doesn't do XYZ, they won't draft him. Please.
He's not a perfect looking lineman physically. He's a little bit of a stumpy kind of guy. He's got a big lower body. He's kind of round. He is a short arm guy, but he does a really nice job of playing with balance and being able to play with a base, whether he's run blocking or pass blocking. It's very rare that you see him go to the ground. He's really good with his hands inside and to keep a base and to try and drive a guy. But if you walked into the room, you would say that is not an NFL lineman. That's because he's not tall, he's not long, but he is very square, and that's where he takes advantage of that.
Brian, when me and you do draft stuff this year, if you remember anything that I say, and I say a lot of stuff, and you remember a lot of stuff that I say sometimes go to bad, you're gonna hear me say this all the time. Teams suck at draft. They're not good.
No. There's teams will make mistakes. I mean, somebody asked me about the whole thing with Phillips, and I was talking to some guys at the Giants, and everything from the Giants there was nothing negative with Phillips. They drafted a kid named Riley that was a defensive tackle that they really, really like. And they have a couple of other young guys that they really like. But it was not that Phillips was a bad guy or malcontent, hated football, didn't want to play, didn't want to practice. No, it's just that they said, you know what, we got a couple of younger, cheaper guys, plus we got a draft pick. And so that's why they moved on. That's why they did the trade. There was nothing, usually you could talk to these guys if you know somebody from a team, and they'll tell you, like when I was talking to my buddies at the Vikings, they were telling me, about the corner. And, I was thinking when they were describing the corner, I go, well, you got to just trade it for the same guy, maybe a little bit better special teams player, but if you hear from your buddy that, hey man, this guy, bad fit, bad locker room, bad character, nobody really liked him, was, those are the kinds of things you're scared of. I mentioned Leroy Glover earlier, and I had a buddy at the Saints, and I knew they weren't going to sign him. And when I asked him, I said, tell me about this guy. And he goes, you cannot get a better character guy than Leroy Glover. I go, he goes, I've been in this league a long time, and my buddies tell me that. And I go, okay, that made me feel better. It made me feel better about the player and the character. But my Giants guys, they didn't say anything at all character-wise negatively at all about Phillips, and that made me feel pretty good. And then, with the thing with Booth, it wasn't anything negative other than he sounds a lot like Nahshon Wright. Yeah. So you might have traded for Nahshon Wright is what you might have traded here. But we'll see. Booth is going to play quite a bit tomorrow at the cornerback spot. We'll see how he lines up.
We got D Shift on the phone. We are doing just fine, player. What you got for us, brother?
Not much, bro. This man, y'all show's kind of like when Jay-Z and Nas dropped Black Republican, bro. You should incorporate some of that into this little mix, man.
Thank you, appreciate that, man.
Bro, 2 goats. But yeah, Broaddus, man, that's like 2007, 2008. Man, you spiced up .com and kind of made me like, that was like when my engagement started. But going to back in the day, can you talk about, Broaddus, how the transition from like Mike Zimmer, from what you saw maybe in his younger years coaching when he was with the Cowboys initially, and now, and maybe how that could possibly help those game management things with McCarthy can kind of get into sometimes. Would he be able to assist, or is that kind of his personality? He don't really strike me as an analytics guy, so I'll sit back for this, man. I appreciate y'all, man.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for the kind words. I really do appreciate that. The thing with Mike, when I was with Mike was a yeller screamer guy. I mean, he was a get in your face kind of guy. And I think where Mike has changed, at least he's got this Jeff Zugina, the defensive line coach, that's kind of his yeller screamer guy now. Yeah. And, I'm sure that Mike will fly off the handle, but I haven't seen it out here at camp. But I know Mike. I know Mike's personality. I know he really is excited about coaching these guys. I can't tell you. He always wants to talk about him. He's like, man, I got this kid. I got this kid. And he's starting. There's starting to be the buy-in from the team. They had a really good goal line period the other day against the Rams, where they got down there and he kind of did some blitzes and did some different things coverage wise. And it was Jimmy Garoppolo in there. I mean, Matthew Stafford had hurt his hamstring, but it's a veteran quarterback. And now they're really not scoring on him. They're not moving the ball. They're not, they can't get the ball to Cooper Kupp, who's kind of their weapon down there. But that's Mike. Mike's kind of gone about this job of taking these guys, coaching them up. They're starting to believe. We'll see if it lasts in the regular season. But he's a different cat now. He's a different cat. He's been through a lot. His family off the field. He's had some losses in his life that way. And he's just happy to be coaching again. He loves Jerry Jones because of the opportunities that Jerry gave him as a young coach. And now, to be a defensive coordinator again in this league. So I'm looking forward to Mike making this thing. We talk about Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn did a damn nice job. But, it's funny. We asked Mike this question, like one time he goes, when he got interviewed, I said on the radio, I go, I think this guy might save Mike McCarthy's job. That's how much I believe in him. Yeah. And somebody in the media brought that up to him, and he started kind of laughing. He says, yeah, you got to believe old Broaddus sometimes. Broaddus knows what he's talking about sometimes, and I was like, oh, geez, here we go, that kind of thing. But, yeah, hopefully things work out for everybody because he's got some kids out here that are playing pretty hard for him. They really are. It's good to have Diggs back. Playing hard for him too.
I will say this about Mike. He doesn't seem like a coach that'll let his ego get in the way of a good decision because, last year when the whole Dan Quinn head coach conversation was going on, Mike could have easily egoed it out and be like, all right, we're not bringing Quinn back. But he brought Quinn back because of the continuity and the defense and all this kind of stuff. So, I don't think Mike probably 100% agrees that Zimmer will save his job, right? You know, he just please.
I did. I said that. I said it on the radio, and like I say, the media, when they told Mike, he smiled and he just kind of started laughing. He goes, yeah, but anyway, that's Mike. You know, Mike is a hard-nosed coach, but he's going to make sure that, like, you know, and we had John Owning on the radio the other day from Pro Football Focus.
Mm-hmm.
And John Owning was talking about how Zimmer plays the game of math when you get equations of how you match up, when you get, 3-on-3, you always want to be, when there's 3 to one side, you want to have 4 in coverage. Yeah. Zimmer will always find ways to keep an advantage of his numbers in coverage. Sure. Where maybe Dan Quinn, and this is some of the problems that Dan Quinn had, is that you get a 3-on-3 and then you have a breakdown and then you can't recover from the breakdown. So, but if you have the 4th guy there, maybe you could make up for a bust or something like that. That's where Mike's different. Mike's really, really on point about making sure that he's protected on both sides and then not letting the quarterback sit there and feel comfortable either.
We got 346 on the phone. We're doing just fine. Who's this?
Yo, what's good, brother? This is Mike, man. I'm in New Orleans.
What's up, Mike? What you got for us?
What's up?
Go ahead. What you got for us?
Oh, I'm sorry, man. How far do you really see us going this year, man? Like, I know we got like some rookies on the offensive line.
Yeah.
CD Lamb missing camp, all the other stuff. I'm just trying to, give me something so I can brag about to these people, to these Saints fans.
I got you, Mike. Appreciate you. Bryan Broaddus, something else I always say here is that we are going undefeated until we don't. I have faith that, like, this team is always talented enough to beat anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that way, whether it's Chiefs, Ravens, whoever it is, we're good enough to beat anybody. Whether we go out there and do it that Sunday is a whole nother, you know what I mean? So in my mind, and I'm a Cowboy fan, so I'm an analyst, but I'm a fan too. So in my mind, we're gonna beat everybody until we do not beat them anymore. So
yeah.
But as long as you have 4 at quarterback, and as long as your coaching situation isn't some nonsense, and as long as your defense is good, you're always going to be in the postseason. Now, what you do after that is a whole nother animal, but I can at least see us being a postseason team until 4 turns into an old man.
Yeah, we play that game when the schedule comes out, win, loss, that kind of thing. And you kind of look at it, and the fact that you're playing the AFC North, I don't think is going to be an easy task at all. Mm-hmm. I think playing the NFC North, with, some of that, not the North, excuse me, you get I was just making the point that, it's the North, is the North, right? God, I mean, it's going nuts there thinking about
Browns, Ravens, Bengals.
I get but the AFC North, and that in itself is going to be a very, very difficult. I think the extra game with the that 17th game is now the Texans. That could be a Super Bowl team, coming out of the AFC. This is not going to be easy. You don't know what's going to happen with their own division. Philadelphia, will Washington be more improved with their quarterback situation? I think their defense is still not very good. The Giants, it will be what it is, but it's going to be, I think, the Cowboys seasons, if you look at how it might all completely play out there, you have to think about that probably the ceiling is probably 12 wins again. Cool. And the floor might be between maybe 8 wins. If I had to guess, I would say somewhere there might be that 4-game swing between the two, with your floor being 8, your ceiling being 12.
Yeah. Let's get 2 more callers in here, and we're gonna let y'all go and get something to eat. All right. Let's get 562. We're doing just fine. Who this?
Oh, what was that?
Hello. We're doing just fine. Who is this?
Well, this is Marcos. I would like to ask Bryan Broaddus I'm a young kid.
Yeah.
In college, I was wondering how you get how'd you get into the whole scout thing? That's just all I'm asking, because I'm keeping up with all the Cowboys content. I appreciate all you guys' content. I was just wondering, like, how did Bryan get into the scouting with all the professional teams? Because that's my dream as well.
Oh, man. Appreciate you, sir. Stay in school, eat your vegetables, and don't do drugs. Keep your grades up, all right? Bryan, how did you become a scout, sir?
Yeah, I tell you what, I'll try and make this quick. I was a college recruiter at LSU when I finished playing football. So I was working on high school kids, and I was dealing with NFL scouts that were coming through. So I was the pro liaison between our coaching staff and then the NFL. Then I got a job at Texas A&M working in recruiting, doing the same thing. And then I got a job in NFL Europe, if you remember the old World League. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to have a boss at the World League that said, when I'm going to get you in the National Football League, and I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, I'm doing just fine here. You know, I like seeing the world and doing this. And sure enough, Ron Wolf, got the job with the Green Bay Packers. And my boss at the time, Chet Franklin, and Ron had worked together with the Raiders, and he called in, and I interviewed on a Monday, and I was hired on my 27th birthday, that Thursday. I went from getting interviewed on Monday to going to Green Bay on Thursday. That's how quick it happened. But I had to go through. Nowadays, it's really, really hard to get into scouting because a lot of it is who you know, and that's how I got my gig. I was happy to be just working in NFL Europe, and doing that. But it turned out that I got to go to Green Bay and be part of a scouting staff that had John Dorsey, Scott McLuhan, John Snyder, Reggie McKenzie, some guys that were damn good general managers, that really good drafters too. So very fortunate that way. But that's how it all started. Just kind of being college football, minor league. NFL Europe was kind of a little bit of a minor league feeder system, and then getting to go to the NFL because somebody had faith in me that I could do the job.
And shouts out to our guy Shaq. He actually asked the same question, but I missed it. My apologies, Shaq. Yeah. He just wanted to know how to go from being one of Voch to one of you. You know what I mean? Just somebody that does it on the couch. I proudly do it on the couch with my camera, with my camera and my microphone. But how do you go do it? And Bryan says, hey, go out there and shake a lot of hands. And Bryan, I'm really excited about being friends with you because everybody loves you. So anybody that we just run into, oh, Bryan, and you're like, oh, this is my friend Voch. So I'm gonna make a lot of friends. Friends with Bryan Broaddus.
Well, it's funny. My agent was in town the other day. Don Yee was watching practice, and he happens to be the agent for Mike McCarthy. So Don came up from LA to watch practice, and it was funny. Like, Don's one of those guys that doesn't show up a lot, and I introduced him to all the media guys. Everybody stand next to me. I'm like, oh, this is Don Yee. And they're all like, oh, hi, how do you know? Oh, nice to meet you, kind of a thing. And Don's like, why does everybody act so weird? And I said, because you represent Tom Brady. That's why they act so weird around you. Yeah, you got Tom Brady, Sean Payton, and Mike McCarthy. And I go, so you're telling me that, he goes, but Bryan, you're my favorite, right? I'm like, yeah, all right. But yeah, it's nice to be able to have interaction with people. And that's part of being old, being in this business a long time. You meet a lot of people, you get a lot of opportunities. And, I'm always encouraged by young people, and hopefully they'll get to do the things that I got to do. I've had two careers. I've been a scout, and then I've been a media guy for about the same, a little bit longer as a media guy. But I've had two careers in my life and been really fortunate with that.
I'm trying to be like you, man. I'm trying, you know what I mean? What's the worst record Dak has ever had? He's gone like 8-8 or something like that. And that's still that's not a losing record. So appreciate you, Frank. And then interest Draw 5 says, Voch, Bryan, love the show, fellas. Look forward to the day you guys do a live show together in-house. It's coming. We have some coming for you.
We're working. Yeah, we're working on this.
Appreciate you, player. Let's get one more call in and we're gonna get up out of here. All right. 469. We're doing just fine. Me and Bryan Broaddus. We're doing fine. We're doing okay. How about you? Who it is?
Good afternoon, Voch. Good afternoon, Bryan Broaddus. This is Los here. How are you, Voch?
Hey, what up, Los?
Time to talk.
Los got a new number. Hey. I got your player. What you got for us?
Hey, shout out to you, Voch, talking with the legend himself, Bryan Broaddus. Thank you for all your hard work for the Cowboys content.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Amazing work as always, man.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick question for both of y'all. And I guess it ties in with the Cowboys. I mean, this offseason in general has been bland per se. and I guess you can say the outcome per fans that showed up on Oxnard and everything. Do you feel like the Jones family have pressure on them to actually make some noise this playoffs, not just for the fans but for themselves? Because as you can see, the water's a little hot, but it's not boiling. But let's say fans will start showing up to games. Do you think that'll create some pressure for the Jones family? And that's my question for both of y'all. Peace out.
Appreciate you, Los. Fantastic question.
You want to take that one, brother?
Brian, I feel like this is just how I feel. I think the casual Cowboy fan has no clue what's going on the internet, right? Yeah. But I think the internet is so loud that the Joneses can't help but to know what's happening.
Yes.
And every press conference they have where everybody's available and Jane comes up and Jane Slater, NFL Network. Why the hell y'all losing so much? Jane just rips into him. Shouts out to Jane for being honest too.
She is great.
And you can see Jerry and Steven huff and puff when they have to answer Jane. And I think Jane has when she's asking questions, she asks what's happening on the internet. So when you see Jerry Jones huff and puffing, come up with his answers and all that, that just lets me know, all right, Jerry knows exactly what's going on the internet, because if he didn't, he'd be like, well, Jen, I haven't heard anyone have any bad things to say about the Cowboys, but I'll say this. Not Jerry said, hey, I know y'all upset. I know you're frustrated. I know y'all want us to do something this offseason. We working on it. So yeah, they 100% know what's happening. I don't think Jerry's on the internet, but Jerry pays somebody to be on the internet and they report to him what's happening.
They do. They get clips every day. They get our tweets. They get breakdowns of what are said on shows. I know on podcasts, I've had guys come up to me in the organization, say, love the work when you work with Voch, or love the work when you work with Bobby. Love that, they say things. They're like, hey, you're not always right, but you're fair about it. And yeah, I think there's pressure on the Joneses. I will say this about the Oxnard part of camp. Came out here the first year we've ever did this. So I've been coming here every year. So I understand where we're at. When I started coming out here, we didn't have 2 football teams. We didn't have 2 Los Angeles football teams. I think what's happened is there's the diehard Cowboy fan of Southern California who lives and dies with this team that will never change. I think there's some fans that said, hey, well, you know what, let's adopt this team in Dallas, because they come here and, it's a part of what we can do. But they're still kind of just on the, they're a fan, but they're not the Southern California fan or the fan around Cowboy Nation. Now they've got 2 teams here in LA that they can go watch or pull for, or they're their own teams. Yeah. It's not cheap to come out here. I admire the people every single day that stand along that fence, because I know they had some expense to get here. But I think a lot of it has to do is this is the first year, though, too, Voch, that I feel like that fans, and we did this on our station on 105.3. I said, hey, are you in or you're out?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that like 70% said out. There's fans that don't want to hear anything bad about their team. I understand that. There's guys and gals that are like, I'm out. And then there's the people that are like completely out. Like they're completely out. Maybe there's that kind of the ride in the fence, I should say, in the middle, but there's some folks that are completely out, ride the fence, and I don't want to hear anything bad about my team. I'm going to be loyal no matter what happens.
Yeah.
I think that's where we are. This is the first time in all my years of doing media that I feel like I think this Green Bay loss hurt a lot of fans. I mean, a lot of fans. Hey, you're the 2nd overall seed. You got to beat the 7th seed. We haven't been to a championship game in 30 years. This loss really hurt this fan base. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you can't get your quarterback done right yet. You can't get your receiver done. You're not spending any money. You're not doing anything. You're just drafting. I think some fans have just had enough. There's going to be some fans that are going to thick and thin, but there's some fans that are like, no, I can't go through this anymore. I can't go. I can't do it.
Brian, me and my audience have been on this journey for like 7, 8, 9 years.
Oh, yeah.
Some of y'all just got here. Appreciate y'all. But on behalf of my audience, I just want to say thank you, sir. Thank you for coming through, sharing wisdom.
Oh man, hey, I appreciate. I'm one of these guys. I check comments, good or bad. I always check. But I just kind of want to know if my message is getting there. Our message is getting there. I love doing this show. I've said it a bunch. I love your fan base. I thought the calls were really good today. I'm sorry we didn't get to everybody, but man, we'll keep working on this and we'll keep striving to be better. And if the team's really, really good or the team's not any good, we'll give you a reason why. Hey, they're good because, or they're not very good because, and I think we'll be fair about it, and I think people appreciate that about your work, So we'll keep working on it, and thanks again for allowing me to be on your channel. This means a lot to me. Means a lot.
You know better than that, bro. I've been watching you for years. And this is yours, Brian. Duck says, thank you for teaching me football there. So shouts out to Duck.
Well, thank you for listening to football. Hey, you know what I got to do? I got to go be on Love of the Star. So after you watch this show, check us out. We'll have Love of the Star probably posted up tomorrow. So me and Bobby about to do another one for you here.
There you go. And I'm about to put this right back up on the screen where it belongs. Hey, appreciate y'all for tuning in.
Oh, wait, that's not true. What's that? Wait.
I'm leaving this right here. I'm leaving this right here.
No. I'm not. No. That I tell you what, that is not happening. That is not.
Hey, follow Bryn Broaddus. I'm putting this back here. Bryn Broaddus. Yeah, you point right at on social media. He'll be answering questions in the morning. I will not until September. Go do Love the Star. Appreciate y'all.